the novel The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole. It was published in 1764 in England and considered to be the first piece of Gothic literature written. Gothic literature elements include supernatural forces like monsters, zombies, or other types of creatures, prophecies, mystical architecture such as castles, haunted houses with a dark setting, romances with usually some hardship or twist in them, and a hero. These characteristics are definitely apparent in the tale of The Castle of Otranto, as it takes place in a mystical castle and has a few different romances taking place that all go back to the central prophecy of the story, told by Manfred, who is the king of Otranto. A very important theme to this story is that power means a great deal, as seen through the way Manfred handles situations to keep his family in power. This theme is prevalent throughout the story as it begins with King Manfred and his wife Hippolyta getting ready for the wedding of their young son Conrad, who is described as, quote, a sickly boy, to the beautiful Princess Isabella. Manfred and Hippolyta also have another daughter named Matilda, who is said in the story to receive no affection from Manfred. This goes back to the theme of the story because Matilda is a girl and therefore cannot become Manfred's successor, so he puts all of his energy into Conrad. Conrad is reported to be missing, and so Manfred goes out to find him and discovers him lying on the ground dead, with a large crowd around him as he appears to have been crushed by a helmet. Manfred is in shock as it seems the prophecy is coming true, which states that the current family that has been in power for generations will pass over to a new one, the true heir of Alfonso, the former king. Manfred has no time to grieve the death of his only son, but is now agitated, trying to think who will be his heir now. He proclaims to Isabella that he will marry her, who is supposed to marry his son, and divorce his current wife Hippolyta. Manfred says about his son, quote, he was a sickly child, and I hope in a few years to rejoice at the death of Conrad. He then also says to Isabella, quote, Hippolyta is no longer my wife. I divorce from her this hour. She has cursed me by her unfruitfulness. My faith depends on having sons. This supports the theme because it says even though Conrad was so sickly and young and inadequate, Manfred was more than willing to let him become king to allow his blood to stay in power. It also supports the theme by showing love was meaningless as Manfred divorced his wife of many years without a second thought when he realized he needed an heir and Isabella could possibly give him one and Hippolyta could not. After this proposition of Manfred, a peasant named Theodore helps Isabella escape to a church where Father Jerome is the pastor. Manfred and his knights search high and low for Isabella, and one night finds her, but ends up being Isabella's long-lost father, Frederick. On the way back to the castle, Frederick sees Matilda and instantly falls in love with her, and so Frederick and Manfred make a deal they will marry the other's daughter. This supports the theme in the story because it shows that Manfred doesn't even care about his own daughter so long as he can marry a woman to possibly produce for him an heir. The problem is that Isabella will not marry Manfred, and so he goes searching for her and thinks he sees her in the church on the floor and stabs her with a knife, killing her. But the girl is not Isabella, but in fact his own daughter Matilda. Theodore runs into the room and is said in the book that, quote, the walls began to shake and the castle walls were thrown down, and the form of Alfonso, dilated to an immense magnitude, appears. Alfonso, who is the former king in the prophecy, who is said to have a different heir than the blood in power currently. The figure says, behold Theodore, the true heir of Alfonso, as the heavens part. Theodore, who was before a peasant, is now king of Otranto, and marries Isabella himself as the two actually love each other. This story radiates that power is more important than family ties or love through the notions Manfred goes through to try and keep his family in power. This has some to do with what was going on in England during the time this novel was written, as the kings were not really qualified, but the power was just handed down one generation to the next, which may be why England was having so many problems during this time, as the rulers weren't right for them. This speaks to today as why we don't have power of presidents go to the children and from generation to generation. Horace Walpole was trying to show that people who are qualified and destined for something will work out, and that real love and family ties matter. By the way, all things turned out terribly for Manfred, who did not believe in this.